Let's talk about this dynamic as it is with our panel. Denise Gitsham joins us. Denise is a News Nation contributor, former Republican congressional candidate in the state of California. And A. Scott Bolden joins us. Scott's a Democratic strategist, attorney. He's the former chair at the D.C. Democratic Party. Scott, am I right that, I don't think Trump, he's not looking to win the Bronx, but what do you make of this dynamic of him moving in to have a rally in an area that he lost by such a wide margin last time around? And are you worried as a Democrat that maybe he narrows those margins in places like this time around?
What, me worry? I'm living in Donald Trump's fantasy right now. What, are you kidding me? No, listen, I don't understand this move politically. I mean, he can go to the Bronx and he can celebrate with those 2,000 or 3,000 people who want to hear his message and what have you. But here's why it doesn't matter. Because he's not going to win New York. New York is not in play. If he gets 20% of the black vote in New York, he's still going to lose New York because it's not a swing state. If Donald Trump wants to impress me and scare the Democrats, then he needs to go to Detroit or go to a swing state with a major urban center with black and brown voters and then take 20% of that, then I'm scared. He hadn't done that yet. I don't know what his strategy is here. Maybe it's just his ego and he wants to feel good, but he asked for it, he'll get it, and we'll have to watch and see what the ramifications are.
I think it's a good point, Scott, that and the question then, Denise, becomes, does this type of, margin lessening, if you will, tighter up margins that we saw last time around translate to a place like Detroit? Let's look at some of the New York Times Siena polling on just voters by race overall and what they found out from their last poll. And particularly when you look at Hispanic voters, it's getting closer and closer. Here it is. See that? Biden and Trump, Hispanic voters, 31 to 31. And I'll follow that with a quote that we had on Hispanic voters from, this is from Unidos on New Latino Voters. It's kind of interesting because what it says is, these new Latino voters are less democratic than more established voters, less supportive of the president. However, they remain largely suspicious of the GOP. Younger voters are significantly more independent, less Democratic or Republican than more established voters. So what do you think, Denise, and whether this group of voters is up for grabs this time around more than in the past?
I mean, I think all the polls are showing what we know, and even Scott, my dear friend on the other side of the aisle, knows, but is loath to admit, because it really is just such a damning sort of judgment on Biden and his complete abject failure on the issues that matter to all Americans, regardless of your race or ethnicity. Look, he's lost 20 percentage points in both the black community and the Hispanic community since 2020. I mean, you can't look at that any other way other than a complete failure to message properly, to engage and honor and respect the people who are putting their confidence in your hands by casting a vote for you. So I think that all voters, regardless of what background you come from, should be grateful that people want to come and try to court them for their vote. I think it's awesome when candidates take the bull by the horns and get in the arena and say, hey, I'm fighting for your vote, and here's why I want you to vote for me. That's the essence of democracy, and we should be championing.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment then, Scott. Forget about the Bronx for a minute tonight. You're right that obviously Trump's not winning New York, or we're talking about a much different election. But to your point, Detroit, let's talk about Philadelphia, outskirts of Philadelphia. Let's talk about Milwaukee. Let's talk about some of these cities where Biden needs to run it up. He needs big margins. He got it last time. But aren't you worried that those margins aren't there this time? And what does he need to do to get back to where he was?
How come I get all the worry questions?
Well,
I'm getting your worry questions today. let me just say this, Shane.
That's because of the, if we're being fair, Scott, it's because of the numbers we just showed, I guess. Maybe there's reason to worry.
I know. Maybe Denise is worried. I'm not worried because I can tell you this. The GOP has got to have policy and politics and progress as an offer to black and brown voters. He's not running 20% down in Detroit and Philadelphia and some of the Democratic strongholds. He just isn't. There's 6 months to go. Is there work to be done in this space? Yeah, if you believe the polls, but the reality is that even if he gets more than what he should, even in those swing states, right, it won't be enough for him to swing those swing states to his advantage. And the reality is, what does he offer black and brown voters? He's anti-gay, he's anti-DEI, he's anti-human rights, anti-civil rights, anti-gun control, anti. And so when the choice is made between these two people as we get closer to November, I'm extremely confident that the numbers of black and brown voters voting for Biden over Donald Trump as he faces 88 felony counts, as he's on trial right now for paying off a porn star, those issues matter, and that black and brown voters are going to overwhelmingly run, or rather vote Democratic. That's what I deeply believe. I think the polling will show that eventually.
Okay, I'm going to fit in one more issue, Denise. You can respond to Scott if you want as well. But what about immigration? The last hour, we covered it live when that bipartisan border bill failed again. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, brought it up again. And, you know, I'm sure knew going in that this was going to fail, and it did. They needed 60 votes and only got 50. The argument for Democrats last time around is like, this is Republicans' fault, this is Trump's fault, they killed the bill. What do you say about it this time, now that it failed again?
I would expect nothing less in the middle of an election year in terms of messaging and finger pointing. The reality is Republicans have always been strong on immigration, which is why they passed H.R. 2 and tried to pass another bill in April that only 5 Democrats crossed over to their side of the aisle to vote for, which would have strengthened and restored security at our border. And the reality is that Democrats waited 3.5 years and allowed up to 10 million illegal immigrants to cross the border, and Americans are seeing it because now New York City, all these places, Chicago, all these cities that were Democratic strongholds are now feeling the effect of what it's like for someone like me from California, who lived in California for all her life, lived in San Diego, and experienced what it was like to be a border state or a border city. And so that's not something that just affects, you know, when Scott talks about black and brown voters, I understand that that's something that you feel deeply and it's part of your history and it's who you are. But I think that most of all, people are concerned about the same things. As Americans, we care about the economy. Can we feed our family? Are we safe? Is there a sense of justice and rules? And do we see people enforcing that or treating different people differently? And whether you're Hispanic or not, but I do see this a lot in the Hispanic community in California, they're frustrated just like all Americans are, because a lot of them are waiting in line legally to do what my parents did, which was to immigrate here legally, to get naturalized. And they're seeing people jump the border, jump that line, and it's just unfair.
Let me run to some other news now, but I appreciate you both. And Scott's not worried. We know that. We established that in the panel today. But Scott,
he's never worried.
Denise, nothing to who be worried. Thanks to both of you for coming on.